Greetings, my name is Monty Martin.
And I'm Kelly McLaughlin.
And we are the Dungeon Dudes. And welcome to our subclass tier ranking for the Wizard in the 2024 Player's Handbook.
These primary spellcasters come with some awesome subclasses. We're going to be taking a look at the features of those subclasses and deciding how they stack up against each other. There's a lot to discuss today, so let's get rolling.
Our Wizard subclass tier ranking is sponsored by Sync, the ultimate pirate and tattoo supplement for 5th edition, which is now live on Kickstarter.
This book is produced in partnership with Hit Point Press. It's an over 200-plus page supplement book that's filled with new mechanics with illustrations rendered in stunning pop traditional tattoo art by tattoo artist Sam Rusk, working along with Johnny Stanton and Rick Escovitas.
Inside the book, you'll find 4 brand new subclasses, including, I think, a super cool concept, the Spell Skin Wizard. This is your classic wizard who inks their spellbook onto their body and reads their spellbook off of it, which is a concept that just I utterly love. I've seen it so many times. It's great to see a subclass featuring it.
I'm also a big fan they introduced the Mistbreaker Ranger, who gets to wield ethereal harpoons to sort of latch themselves onto their enemies.
There's also 50 magic item tattoos that you can apply to your character's skin, regardless of your class, to inspire them for swashbuckling adventures ahead.
So if you love pirates, or you love tattoos, I personally love both, then you can ink your own story by following the campaign in the links below and get in on it while it's live on Kickstarter. And now, onto this week's episode. Up on screen right now, you are going to see the criteria that we use to rank the subclasses. We are pitting them against each other and not subclasses from other classes. We're also not really taking multi-classing into play here. We might discuss it mildly, but that's not how we're doing our rankings. Looking at our rankings, S tier is going to be for the extraordinarily powerful subclasses that have features which enhance the base class in game-changing ways, and they offer overpowered features which dominate common adventuring scenarios, especially combat.
Now, A tier is where we really want to see most subclasses land. These are subclasses that have really strong benefits that are applicable in combat, in exploration, and or social interaction. There's great synergy when you combine the subclass features with the base class features, as well as skills, feats, and spells. This is where we want to see things land.
B is also an excellent place for a subclass to land. This has good features which excel with the right build. It's going to offer viable options which contribute to most pillars of play. And if you're playing at the right table, or maybe with the right DM, or maybe with the right group, it could be S tier.
Now, on the other hand, a C tier subclass offers some pretty niche features which rarely come up in play unless a very specific build or combination is exploiting that build. Often, the problem with that build is that there's a high opportunity cost, which has some sort of trade-off that is required to function, or it doesn't let you fully utilize some of the best features available to the class, or pushes you towards using features that just, it might be like every other game session that you actually get to use them.
And D-Class, these are features that are seldom useful and they don't synergize with the base class, and you should probably avoid choosing a subclass if it lands in D tier.
Let's kick things off by looking at the Abjurer. So every wizard subclass has this savant feature at level 3 where they basically get to add an extra spell of their associated school to their spellbook every time they gain a level, as well as getting some easier scribing spells. It's kind of an equalizer amongst them, so it's not like a huge factor in the rankings, although in some cases, I think with Abjuration, you might be scraping the bottom of the barrel. Because sometimes there's not like more than one really good Abjuration spell of every level, but it's neither here nor there. You also get Arcane Ward. This lets you create a ward with hit points equal to 2 times your wizard level plus your int mod. And it just takes damage for you instead of you taking that damage while it's active.
Thematically, it's like having a magical shield or force field around you at all times. That's just going to give you extra hit points that absorb damage.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because it's not temporary hit points.
Yeah.
And it's not an increase to your hit point maximum. So it stacks with like everything.
If you can get that as well as temporary hit points, as well as increasing your hit point maximum, then you're looking pretty beefy for a wizard.
Now, the ward can also be recharged. Whenever you cast an abjuration spell, you get twice the spell level back into your ward to refill it. So like if you're casting shield, which you'll probably cast the shield spell a lot, you get 2 hit points back into your ward. Every time you cast dispel magic or counterspell, that's 6 points back into your ward. And if you're throwing down like higher level abjuration spells, you'll get even more back in there.
And at level 6, you're going to get projected ward. Sharing is caring, and there's nothing better than instead of warding yourself, you can ward your allies. Obviously, you are the squishy wizard, so sometimes warding yourself is important, but sometimes if your fighter is taking all of the hits and everybody keeps attacking them and knocking them down, you might want to ward them. Might be better.
It is a reaction, but this is a great way to absorb a big hit. Normally, like you don't, even though you have the ability to take extra hits, you still don't really want to. So this lets you use the arcane ward to take a hit for someone else. Level 10, you get Spellbreaker. You always have Dispel Magic and Counterspell prepared. They don't count against your normal spells prepared. You can cast Dispel Magic as a bonus action, although you still have to obey the rules for bonus action spell casting. When you do, though, you add your proficiency bonus to the Dispel check. And if you cast Counterspell on someone and they make their con save, or you cast Dispel Magic and you don't make the Dispel check, the spell slot isn't expended.
Awesome. And at level 14, you gain spell resistance. You now have advantage on saving throws against spells, and you have resistance to all spell damage. I think that the Abjurer is probably the most robust wizard option that we have in the sense of like being I would never call a wizard a tank. No, you don't want to wade into the front lines of combat with this guy. But the Abjurer has the most potential to stay alive above all of the other wizards.
Yes, and I think that if you're in a very aggressive campaign where you're going to take a lot of damage, this ward really, really will help a lot. And I think that this kind of gives us like a very solid baseline for a defensive playstyle. Me personally, I prefer aggressive playstyles overall. I like aggressive control and aggressive damage dealing. Whereas the Abjurer is definitely more reactive in the way that their features work.
I won't lie, if I was to play another wizard, my first character was an Evoker, but if I was to play another wizard, it would probably be the Abjurer.
Oh, really?
Out of the 4 subclasses presented here,
yeah,
it's the one that I would be the most excited to play.
I've always liked the Abjurer. It's always the one that just, it just never, I don't think the defensive playstyles just don't excite me. But objectively on paper, the features are good. And I think it's worthy of an A.
Yeah, I agree. I would give it an A. I think I like all the features. I think it's all useful. And I think that, there's nothing bad here.
No. I think that like the thing that saves the arcane ward is the projected ward. Because in general, as a wizard, I just don't want to, I just don't even want to be in a position where I'm going to take damage. But sometimes you do. And it's helpful that it's there, but it's great that you have a way to use it
to save a friend.
Yeah. I think that Dispel Magic and Counterspell are less effective now.
But hey, you get to use them for free a little bit. So I mean, that's makes them more effective for you.
Yeah, the thing is that in the 2024 rules, we're seeing less monsters with spell casting.
Yeah.
And that does lower and this is the one area where you could make the argument the Abjurer is a B. Because if you're not going up against spellcasters, your level 10 and 14 features are doing nothing.
True.
And it's not that spellcasting enemies aren't common. They are relatively common.
They are relatively common, but they're not going to be every enemy. So
they're not going to be every encounter.
This is the thing is like, I can't imagine a campaign where you're not going to use those features, but I also can't imagine that you would use them all the time. It's going to be like in the final battle of each arc of your adventure.
Yeah, they're going to be there, but like, and I can even think of many officially published adventures that you're like, wow, there's actually not a lot of spellcasters in this adventure overall, or just circumstances. Again, you're still going to have it come up a lot, but like your 10th and 14th level features, and dragons are now often spellcasters, so you can usually use these against a dragon, but there's still like boss monsters that like don't cast spells.
I mean, let's assume that people love using spellcasters, because I know that both of us love throwing spells at our, so I'm still willing to give them an A.
Yeah, I because spellcasters tend to be the nastiest category of enemies.
Yeah.
And so I think that counterbalances it.
Yeah.
But it's worth mentioning. Okay, so next up is my personal favorite, the Diviner. Again, at level 3, we've got the Divination Savant. So more divination spells. Again, like the Abjurer, sometimes you start running a little thin on divination spells here. So getting the extra divination spells is nice. A lot of them are rituals, but you kind of get them all, basically. What we're really here for is the level 3 feature, Portent. Lets you roll 2 d20s after every long rest, and then you can replace a d20 test made by a creature you can see with these foretelling rolls. You have to do it before the roll is made, and each roll can be used once. So the big strategy here usually is either if you roll low, you're going to use those offensively on an enemy to force them to have like a 3 on their saving throw against one of your spells. Or you can use them defensively to just like, if you roll like a 16, that's almost always going to save against, be a saving throw.
Mostly you're doing saving throws, or your saving throws buffed or enemy saving throws debuffed.
Yeah, or if you do happen to roll a nat 20 on one of your foretelling rolls, you can, the most powerful application for that is like when the rogue or the paladin is sneak attacking or smiting, that's where like you just auto crit. Yeah.
At level 6, you're going to gain Expert Divination. You get to regain lower level spell slots whenever you cast a divination spell. We have talked about this isn't really that easy to do or necessarily beneficial, but we have talked about the waterfall effect of like casting multiple divination spells on your like downtime that then trickle to keep regaining a spell slot of a lower level. It's possible. We did that more as a thought experiment. It's not something that you'll always use, but it is nice that if you go through a combat encounter, blow a couple low-level spell slots, then you use some divining magic to foretell the future of your adventuring day, get those spell slots back, and then you're able to wait into the next combat.
So I have played a divination wizard all the way up to level 20 in Adventures League. The only time I ever used this feature was if I had, I used Arcane Eye.
Yeah.
And I would cast Arcane Eye to spy ahead, and then I would get a 3rd level spell slot back from that. Because it's divination spells are weird. Like there's a couple really good ones at 1st and 2nd level, like Detect Magic and Detect Thoughts and stuff like that. And then you get the higher level ones like Divination and Contact Other Plane that like a bunch of the higher level ones, they're rituals.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need to expend spell slots for them anyways. Or a lot of these divination spells like scrying, which generally you don't cast them on the adventuring day, you're casting them between adventures.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the issue with this feature, is that in a lot of cases diviners like to cast all their divination spells and then get all their spell slots back by long resting.
Yeah.
So this is not like...
It's a difficult ability to use.
Yeah. And the Cascade, I've never actually done that.
No, we theory crafted the Cascade, but it doesn't actually come into play. But at level 10, you do get the 3rd eye. This is going to allow you to gain dark vision, or see invisibility, or you can read all languages. So either way, you're gaining something here. And at level 14, you get an extra Portent die, which is just more of our favorite feature here.
Yeah.
So looking at the Diviner, I want to break this down because I love the Diviner, but I think what I actually love is Portent. I don't know if I actually love the Diviner. I love Portent.
Yes.
And if we were to remove Portent, this would be a B or C tier sub.
Oh, it would be without Portent, this would be C tier.
Yeah. With Portent, it actually might. So, yeah, it bumps it up. I think it's an A because of how good Portent is, but it isn't S because even with how good Portent is, and it being the main reason why this is a good subclass, Portent is still a chance. Yeah. You could roll a 13 and a 14 and you're like, what do I do with these? If you roll like a 1 and a 20, great, you're going to have a great time. But that middle ground with the dice is actually not the best place to be. And Portent has the chance of not being beneficial all the time. It's 2 times per day and eventually it's 3. But when it does have an impact, it's a massive impact.
So here's, and I'm saying this again with the benefit of experience, having played the Divination Wizard and other wizards and other spellcasters. Portent has the ability to be utterly encounter ending and game warping when the dice come up the way you want them to. So when you play the Divination Wizard with Lucky, you kind of feel like you are manipulating all the dice rolls in the game, and it's amazing. But the most powerful thing that you do with Portent is the aforementioned, I rolled low dice with Portent, and I banked those so that my really hard-hitting single target battlefield control spells land. So this is where you're using Hold Person, Banishment, Hold Monster, or like at upper levels, like the really nasty control spells that just kind of win the fight.
Yeah.
The problem with those features is that they don't work against legendary monsters. So a legendary creature can, even if you force them to fail to save with Portent, legendary resistance overrides it. So you can't Portent to force a dragon or a demon lord to just lose instantly. It doesn't work that way. It'll burn one of their legendary resistances, but that's never worth it. That's never worth it. And it's ultimately, even on the days where like you roll 2 low Portent rolls, it's still only 2 of your spells on 2 targets on 2 saving throws that this is like a lock.
So I do think that the Diviner is actually a very strong subclass because of the capabilities of Portent, but it's not strong enough to give it the S tier. And I think it's an A.
I agree. It is absolutely an A.
And if it was, that's mostly because of how good Portent can be, because without Portent, it would be a C.
But I've had other adventures where like I rolled like, it's the worst when you roll like a 10 and an 11.
Yeah.
Because you're like, what? Because you want the extreme rolls, right? The 10 and 11 are nice to just kind of like sock away for like, we can't fail this, so whatever. But the hardest ones to use. It's great. The succeeding a saving throw on your own is kind of cool, but there's often like so many other ways to buff saving throws from the player side of things, that it's like, so it's a great feature. It's just really hard to use. And I think that a lot of people have in their mind this idea that like somehow the Divination Wizard is making every hold monster and every banishment always like end every encounters. But it's not that. Like even when you throw down Hypnotic Pattern, you don't get to use Portent against everyone saving throws. It's 1 creatures. So it is a lot more limited in play than it seems to be. And I will say, the Divination Wizard, that one thing where like sometimes you have adventures that it feels like you didn't have a subclass with a Diviner. It literally does. It's the S tier. I just don't think that it can be even though it has this like 1 game ending, even though it has an I win button.
It literally does, but it's a button that you get to push twice in like a day where you would want to push that button 100 times.
Yeah.
So it's an A.
Yeah, it's an A. But the caveats are there.
Moving on to the Evoker. This is the super blastery blaster wizard that blows things up and sets everything on fire. One of my personal favorites. It was the first character I ever played in D&D was my Evoker wizard.
And with Evocation Savant, you're actually not going to have any lack for great evocation spells to take at every single level.
Yeah.
This is the one where you're like, nom, 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 give me all them spells.
And
because there's so many to choose from, and there's so many that you actually want.
And no matter what, like you want, I mean, obviously if you're an evoker, you want the blastery spells, but like every wizard wants the blastery spells. These are the most popular spells in the game that you're going to be choosing, and gaining from your evocation savant. Also, your potent cantrip feature that you get at 3rd level is just incredible for damage dealing cantrips. You're going to deal half damage with your cantrips, even if you miss, or even if the target makes their saving throw. So no matter what, you're dealing damage. There's no stopping you.
So good with Acid Splash
Yeah.
for like a guaranteed minion sweep, or it's fine with Firebolt. It's always good, right? Your fallback, you've always got a reliable damage source.
At level 6, you're going to gain Sculpt Spells, and this is the ability that every other blaster in the game wishes they could take. Sculpt Spells, you get to choose one plus the level of the spell in creatures to automatically make their saves against your spells and take no damage on a successful save. So essentially, the short way of saying that is you can fireball where all your party members are and none of them get hurt.
This is such like an effective new player friendly feature.
Yeah,
right?
Don't blow up your friends. If you're a new player, honestly, the Evoker is a great way to go for a brand new player who wants to play a wizard, because rolling fireball dice is fun, and rolling fireball dice without accidentally killing your teammates is extra fun.
Empowered Evocation, just straight up int mod to 1 damage roll of evocation spells. It's important to note it's 1 damage roll, so if you're firing Scorching Ray, which shoots 3 rays, it's just once. So you don't get to add it to every single Scorching Ray. Because when you do an AoE spell, it is 1 roll for all those hit. It does boost the damage of Fireball on everything. So that's nice. It's great for AoEs, but less so for like the multiple strikes. And it still works on your cantrips too.
And at 14th level, you get Overchannel. You deal max damage now with a spell of 5th level or lower.
You get to use this once.
Yeah.
And then if you want to use it again, you have to take damage.
Honestly, in my play experience, it was worth it to take the damage. There are so many times that just throwing out a fireball and saying max damage to everybody in that area, it's nice. It feels nice.
It is, because a 5th level fireball is 10d6, which is 60 damage.
Yeah.
Just boom,
60
to
damage
the face, to the dome.
to a bunch of people.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
I love the Evoker.
I do too. But caveats. Okay. Damage dealing as a spellcaster is, unless like the blaster archetype really wants to have a really reliable source of at-will damage. The Evoker with Empowered Evocation with Firebolt, it's respectable damage. It's also great that Elemental Adept is so accessible now, so you can like ignore resistance to fire damage, and the feat really helps there.
Yeah.
And so you've got your elemental damage. The damage is good. There's no build here for the Evoker Wizard. Well, actually there is one, but any wizard can do it. So like there is currently, with the current wording of Conjure Minor Elementals, you can do the shotgun blast of Conjure Minor Elementals with Scorching Ray and just do a ridiculous amount of damage by combining those, because the Conjure Minor Elementals adds 2d8 damage to every ray of Scorching Ray. So you upcast Conjure Minor Elementals, then you run up to somebody at short range, and because they have to be within the emanation of Conjure Minor Elementals, and then you upcast Scorching Ray and hit them for like... But every wizard can do that. And there's nothing about, like, the Evoker is just like, yeah, here's 4 extra damage on top of the 100 damage that I already did. So, and that combination is pretty, like, borderline on, at the time of recording, Conjure Minor Elementals hasn't been hit by errata, but mark my words.
I still think that, so we just looked at the Diviner, and we talked about how great Portent was, and how the rest of the features that the subclass gets sometimes feels like you don't have a subclass. The Evoker, on the other hand, I think every feature that the Evoker gets, you're going to feel it.
Yeah, you're always going to use them.
And it's tough, because, like, I'm running on this, like, is everything an A? Because I'm feeling like the Evoker is an A. Okay,
so I don't have any argument against it being good. It's just, it's not great. You know what I mean? Like, damage dealing as a wizard thing is just not, I don't think it's the strongest thing a wizard can do. And I don't think the Evoker's features take damage dealing as a wizard up to an impressive extent.
Okay, I'm going along with you on this. I'm marking A. We've marked my A. I've given it a stamp of approval. But yeah, let's.
And I'll just say my metric, because my metric for is the damage impressive, is did you zero an enemy in one round?
I mean, if I overchannel a fireball, I can zero 10 enemies in one round. Minions.
Yeah,
okay.
Right. But I notice damage that like bloodies or zeros out an at level enemy.
And here's okay. I'm gonna play devil's advocate to myself, and let's go along with what you're saying. Okay. In a party made up of a barbarian, a paladin, a fighter, and a wizard, if you choose to be the evoker and dedicate yourself to dealing damage, and again, we're not trying to compare this across other classes, but we are talking about party composition.
Yeah.
In that party, you being a damage dealer instead of a battlefield controller, you're actually, you're not helping. Because
you're not helping.
You're not helping. But everybody else is like doing the thing that your primary focus is better than you are, and you would be contributing more to the battlefield as a battlefield controller,
or
stopping,
a buffer.
Or a buffer.
It's the classic example of like casting haste on the barbarian might be doing more damage than fireball.
Yeah, that like even an overchanneled fireball. It's if you can cast it, if you can cast haste or cast slow on a bunch of enemies.
Yeah,
or cast hypnotic pattern.
Yeah.
And it's not that the evoker can't still have those spells, but the focus of the subclass is dealing damage. What are you putting it at?
I'm very torn. I think of the subclasses in the player's handbook, it is the lowest. I would rank it the lowest.
Which is crazy to me because, again, and I'm with you. It's just I'm struggling with this idea that all of the features that we've listed are excellent compared to the diviner that we're giving an A that has one feature that's S tier and like three features that are C tier. Yeah. And this is like all features that are B or A tier.
I think they're all good. It like I said, it's like everything here is good. It's just it doesn't take it up to the next level. Like Portent is a next level feature because it takes a spell that may or may not work and turns it into I just won the combat, right?
Yeah.
And over channel, like even when you over channel a spell at higher levels, it might not win you the combat.
Mm-hmm. Right?
Like an over channel fireball, that's 60 damage, but that's a lot of damage for a one-off spell. But it's coming online at level 14 when enemies have hundreds of hit points.
Yeah.
Right? And empowered, so I think Sculpt Spells is one of the most impactful features that this has. Potent Cantrips is good, but again, once you're down to cantrips, like you're on the mop-up phase.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So I think a B is very reasonable for the Evoker. A B plus even.
Here's what I'll say. On the table, we'll put it on a B.
Okay.
I want a little asterisk saying that Kelly thinks that this is probably an A, but I agree with you that there are party compositions and there are situations where being a blaster is not the most beneficial thing you can be. And so this subclass might not be the best thing a wizard can do because they make a better controller, they make a better buffer, they make a better... Wizards are not... They can be a decent damage dealer, but not as good as so many other classes out there. So by playing into that, are you taking away from what the wizard is actually the best in the game at doing? Maybe.
You're not taking away. Like, it's like, at the end of the day, the Evoker can still drop a control spell.
But all three of the other subclasses presented offer contributions to what the wizard is best at doing. I'm trying to argue myself into a B. I don't know.
Like the Evoker can like if the Evoker wants to, they can drop hypnotic pattern.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess okay, so technically speaking, you could drop hypnotic pattern and then fireball and use sculpt spells to omit the creatures that are incapacitated by hypnotic pattern.
Yeah,
and therefore still do damage with fireball while not knocking
I
people
love
out.
the Evoker.
I know. I think it's good. I just again, I don't think it's bad.
Okay.
B tier is not a bad ranking.
No, it isn't. I just really like the Evoker, and I'm feeling very A vibes from it. But let's put it in B.
Okay.
And if you're planning to play an Evoker, Kelly says you're going to have an amazing time. I mean, B is still an amazing time, but I just think blown things up is so fun, and this is a really good subclass for doing it.
So finally, we have the Illusionist. Illusion Savant, again, there are tasty illusion spells at every level of play. Yeah. Tasty, nom nom nom. Eat like I maybe there's a couple levels where there's not as many.
Not as many as the Evoker, but compared to the Abjurer and the Diviner, this is your second best.
And this is also where we get like hard hitters.
Yeah.
Like because illusionists so yeah, at early levels of play it's kind of limited, but like eventually you've got invisibility, you've got phantasmal force, you've got mirror image, you've got hypnotic pattern, which is an illusion spell, not an enchantment spell. You're going to go to greater invisibility, you're going to have seeming, and then once you get into the very higher levels, simulacrum is an illusion spell, technically, if your DM lets you use it, or if you're going to use it in the abusive ways. So that it's worth noting. So Illusion Savant's going to be great.
And I mean, right off the bat, one of the best cantrips in the game is Minor Illusion.
Yeah.
So you start with Minor Illusion, but also when you are becoming an illusionist at third level, you're going to get improved illusions. You can cast illusion spells without verbal components.
Stealth casting at level 3.
At level 3. And you get to increase the range of your illusion spells by 60 feet.
As long as they have a range of at least 10 feet to begin with.
Right. And you learn Minor Illusion, if you didn't already have it, but now you have it. And you can cast it as a bonus action, and you can create both sounds and images at the same time. So
this is an entire subclass's worth of features at level 3.
I know you
like this is so stacked.
I will say, okay, the Illusionist relies on a good DM and a creative player. That's something that I want to say up front. Yeah. But most of my D&D experience, I happen to have an excellent DM, and I happen to be a relatively creative player, I like to think. So I see this on paper, on what Minor Illusion can do, and I get so excited about the shenaniganery.
Yes, because, okay, let's talk about a few things. First of all, the stealth casting for all your illusion spells is amazing. You're going to get proficiency in stealth. You're already an illusionist, so you can be invisible while casting other illusion spells too. Stealth casting is cool. And stealth casting with illusions is super cool. The increased range is useful, but not like, it's thank you, I'll take it.
Yeah.
The fact that you're casting Minor Illusion as a bonus action and you get both effects of it whenever you cast it is an incredible double dip, because with the bonus action spell casting rules, or you can only cast one spell with a leveled spell slot per turn, right? Minor Illusion is a cantrip. So you can be casting another spell with your action and then doing something cool with Minor Illusion at the same time.
The amount of mean stuff, like having laughter coming from all sorts of chambers while you're like blasting your enemy, like just messing with, like, I hope that the DMs out there who have creatures with low intelligence roleplay them properly when an illusionist is causing sounds and images to appear in random places while a combat is happening. I would have creatures like goblins or things like that get very thrown off and confused.
I just think, I mean, for me, the most convincing illusion is always one that doesn't appear suddenly, but one that is somehow integrated into the terrain. And so I love the way that I reward creativity as a dungeon master. And so I'm not really like, when something just appears out of nowhere, I'm it depends. But when the player like does something creative, like make the illusion of the wall just like 6 inches off, or like I am making another illusory crate and hiding behind it already in this stack of crates, or like blending in. Remember, minor illusion can't make the illusion of creatures. And I'm the type of dungeon master that is not gonna say, I'm gonna be like, some people like to say, oh, well, you can't make a creature, but you can make an illusion of a very realistic statue of a creature. No. You can't make, it's got to be an object. I'm not a fan of that.
A creature shaped box.
Or a cardboard cutout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A mannequin.
But you can make sounds.
Yeah.
I think this feature is banger though, regardless. And Minor Illusion is my favorite cantrip in the game.
And it gets even better because at level 6 we get phantasmal creatures. So now we always have Summon Beast and Summon Fae prepared. And you actually get to cast these spells as illusions once per day without expending a spell slot. Except that they have half hit points. Except that, I mean,
because they're spectral.
Yeah, they're like spectral illusion versions, have half the hit points, but it's a free casting. It's essentially you get 2 free summons a day with less hit points than the normal summons. I think that's fantastic.
Summon Beast and Summon Fae are also really good spells in general. Summon Beast isn't normally a wizard spell. This is like one of those ones where it's like, I would have expected the Summon Beasts and Summon Fae spells to be associated with like a Conjurer or a Summoner class. I'm surprised that they're here. I think what this is calling back to, so in 3rd edition D&D, there were spells that were called Shadow Evocation and Shadow Conjuration. And these were illusion spells that let you mimic any conjuration or evocation spell.
Right.
And they were like 20% real. So like the way those spells worked was that an enemy could first disbelieve the illusion, but then if they failed to disbelieve the illusion, they were like affected as if the spell was real. I think this is like a bit of a callback to that, and it's a cool feature. I think that this is a really good answer to like I want to have an illusory creature that fights in combat.
Yeah. I think at 10th level, if you don't have enough illusions already, then why don't you yourself become an illusion? The real illusion is the friends we made along the way. That doesn't even work here. I don't know. But illusory self at 10th level, you get to use a reaction to have an attack miss you.
Yeah.
Because you're an illusion.
And you get, it's once per short rest, or you can expand a 2nd level spell slot to get it back.
Yeah.
It's like Super Shield. It's shield, except
that big hit comes in. Monty rolls a crit, and I'm like, no, I'm not there.
Yeah.
And then at 14th level, you get illusory reality. It's a bonus action to make an inanimate object that's part of your illusion real for 1 minute. The objects can't cause damage or give any conditions. But when I read this, it's just like my brain goes into overdrive on the possibilities. Perhaps, and I do admit there's some discrepancies here on how much you know about the inner workings of a lock, but could I create an illusory key to a door and then make it real and unlock the door? Could I create a bridge over a gap?
The book gives the example of the bridge.
Yeah.
And I think this is where it's actually really useful to like just remind ourselves what the major image spell does, because major image is basically the spell that you're going to use with this feature the most, because it's the 3rd level illusion spell. And this is one of the craziest 2024 changes. It used to be that you had to cast major image with a 6th level spell slot to make it concentration free.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a 4th level spell slot.
Boom.
Boo. Yeah. So this is the like overdrive thing, because illusionists can have multiple major images concentration free. It's an unreal spell. Because it's a 20-foot cube.
Yeah.
So any object that you can imagine in a 20-foot cube, you can make that real.
Okay, I'm not great at math, but if I make the ladder diagonal, is it still only 20 feet, or can I get more out of it?
I think you can get more out of it, but then I wonder. Like, here's the caveat: you can never cause conditions or do damage with whatever you make real. Right?
But like the fact that I can solve so many problems, it's like I could illusion up with major image. You can make creatures.
Well, yes, but you can't make them real with this feature.
Right, it's an inanimate object.
But simply put, like.
But if I have a horse, I could make a wagon.
Yes, or what you could do basically.
I can make any.
No. You can make a box of adamantium. A 20-foot by 20-foot adamantium box that is real for 1 minute, concentration free, with a 4th level spell slot.
Ooh, and then I can just.
So you wanted Force Cage back?
No, but like.
But no, seriously, like this is because, and here like. If you are sad that Force Cage is now requires concentration, here's your closest equivalent.
I also just think the amount of situations that you can just solve by being creative with illusory reality is incredible. It's like there are so many ways to solve problems with this ability.
But the adamantium box is.
I mean, that's your thing.
It's a pretty good default.
I'm creating a 20-foot sled to slide down the mountain with my friends.
Okay, sure, and it's real for a minute.
I hope that we can get down to the bottom in a minute.
Yeah.
I can do a lot of things in a minute. Here's the thing about the Illusionist.
Yeah.
When we do our rankings, we are ranking them based on our experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
think that the Illusionist is an S tier subclass. I think that, and I'm gonna already put a caveat here. The Illusionist is an S tier subclass because Monty and I have the benefits of Monty being a wonderful DM. I like to think I'm also a wonderful DM, and both of us are very creative players.
Yeah.
So in most cases where we're playing at each other's tables, we get to use all of these features really, really well. Mm-hmm. There is a chance that the Illusionist is a B or even a C tier if you have a dungeon master who does not really know how to play with illusions at their table.
Yeah. Or who just illusions never work. Like, I have played with a dungeon master who illusions never worked. They just never worked. Like, I have a very, I remember very, very prominently a game that I played with the DM where I was playing an illusionist and a village was going to be attacked by an ogre. So I created the illusion of a bunch of knights defending the village. And the ogre still ran up and attacked. Right? Like, I was like, because like the combat had to happen.
Yeah.
Right? So I do see, I have experienced the illusions are not allowed ever to work DM. And the flip side of like the illusions are like reality warping is powerful. But and potentially game breaking on the other side of it, particularly if you do have a player that is going to like really, really play mind games.
I don't think that the Illusionist is the S tier in the sense that like it's damaging for the game, but I do think that the Illusionist has the potential to absolutely alter and undo, and maybe not even like combat encounters might not even happen because of a clever illusionist.
Yeah.
Or the just the shenanigans you can get up to of like creating an illusion. Okay, this is even better. You create an illusion of a bridge over a pit of lava. You're running away from a bunch of monsters. You use illusory reality to make it real. You run across the bridge and then you make it unreal, but the illusion is still there.
I mean that is a level 14 thing.
Yeah.
Right?
But if you're the DM and you have everybody stop, they just saw me run across the bridge. If any DM was like, oh, they know it's an illusion, I'm like, no, they don't. They saw me run across it. They try to run across it too. They fall in the lava and die. Maybe only the first row of them do. And then the rest are like, oh, what just happened? But that works.
That's actually a case. That's actually a case where it's kind of cool to still concentrate on the major image.
Yeah.
Because like you concentrate on the major image so that your party can run across it, and then you stop concentrating on it when the enemies are across it. I agree with you. I think the Illusionist is S tier. Yeah. Stealth casting illusion spells alone is great. The minor illusion thing is great. The summons are great. The illusory self is an incredible like it is illusory self. Like the Abjurer is kind of like, what?
Yeah, the Abjurers are like, I have my force field. I'm working really hard on it. Like, and the illusion's like, I'm not even here.
Yeah. Yeah. And illusory reality, I just think the scope of creativity that you could accomplish with this and major image together is unreal.
Up on screen right now, you're going to see our final rankings. Again, I think we have a few weird caveats here. Like, realistically, there's an argument that all 4 of these are A tier.
I think there's an argument that all 4 of them are B tier. If you really want to get pessimistic about it.
I'm happy with where we've landed. I do think that the Evoker has very strong potential if you want to be a blaster, and if a blaster is going to be valuable to your party. I think that the Illusionist has the potential to be a B tier if you have a DM who isn't going to be forgiving on illusions, or a player who isn't creative enough to come up with the shenanigans possible with an Illusionist. So both of those are possible, but I think this works.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to say at the same time is like wizards ultimately are defined by their spells.
Yeah.
Right? And the thing about any wizard is regardless of your specialization, you can still take the other spells from this specialization. Like, really and truly, like, until illusory reality, and aside from minor illusion and the silent thing, like, a diviner can make great use of major image and illusion spells. And Evoker can cast all the same divination spells that a divination wizard can and do all the shenanigans with like scrying and telepathy and contacting other planes and stuff like that the diviner can.
Yeah.
Right? And the Illusionist can augment their own defensive features by bringing counterspell and dispel magic. Right? And if they want to throw a fireball in the mix, they can. So I do think that the gap here is much smaller.
It's a very narrow, like all of these are excellent.
Yes.
And it's mostly going to come down to spell choice.
And so I do think that like, I do feel as we've been going through the tier ranking, like there's been as we've done fighters, as we've done clerics, we've done wizards so far, there's always this temptation to just say everything's A, because the Player's Handbook 2024 is very, very tight.
Yeah.
In its balance. And so I tend to err for myself with my rankings. I've been erring on, okay, what are the outliers? Like, where is it going? What is the hairline fracture?
We have to be nitpicky.
Yeah.
Like, in our 2014, things were obvious. It was like Purple Dragon Knight. Yeah, we know where to put that.
Yeah.
But now in this version of the game, it's like everything seems great. So we're going to have to be like really picky on trying to like adjudicate where they fall. I will admit, I think I lied earlier. After doing this rankings, I wouldn't play an Abjurer. I'd be playing an Illusionist. My next wizard is an Illusionist.
Yeah.
But you have to be nice to me when I make my silly illusion.
I think we can work that out.
Yeah, cool. Might be a few years before we get to that, but we'll get there.
Illusionists are awesome.
I love them. They're so much fun. And this is the thing. Most of what a wizard does is in their spell choices. The Illusionist is actually one of the few ones here that actually feels like the subclass majorly impacts illusion. Like, actually, it kind of works for all of them, but like the Diviner's best feature actually has nothing to do with divination spells.
No, zero.
The Illusionist makes me want to cast all of the illusion spells. The Evoker in the same way makes me want to cast, AoE. Really, it's shape.
Fireball. It's just
Yeah.
Fireball.
But the Illusionist, I think above all the others, makes me want to double down on Illusion.
Yeah.
If you have any idea what wizard you want to play, or if you disagree or super agree with these rankings, let us know in the comments below.
The videos that we make at our channel are made possible thanks to the incredible generosity of our Patreon community. If you enjoy our tier rankings and class guides and the content we make here on YouTube, supporting our channel through Patreon is one of the best ways that you can help us out. Follow the links down below.
And if you want to see us slinging some spells, you can check out our actual play in the Worlds of Trachenheim, which airs Tuesday evenings right here on YouTube. You can check out all the previous episodes right up over there.
And we are doing tier rankings for all the subclasses in this beautiful new book. Check them out right up over here.
Please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and ring that bell so that you never miss an episode.
Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time in the dungeon.